want to listen to the podcast where we talk sports raw and unfiltered?
Mahomes looking to flip, takes it in for the touchdown.
Looking for a little something on the edgy side?
Keep your head out there. They're going to do dumb. Play our game. All right? Play hard, but stay poised.
You're about to be locked into the Unscripted podcast.
Let's be great. Let's be great.
Yeah, man. Let's be great on the Unscripted podcast. If anybody knows me, I enjoy being great. I get a thrill out of being great. That's my job, is to be great. The shameless plug, as always, is to be sure to follow me at Brian Ain't Lying on Twitter. Appreciate everybody listening to the podcast. However they listen to the podcast, whether it's via iTunes. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. Whether it's iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or any of your local platforms, I definitely appreciate you listening to the podcast. I got so many thoughts on my mind and so many tongue twisters, man. Like it's crazy, man. All I can say is I appreciate everybody that's listening to the show. I know a lot of people are listening right now via Facebook Live. So as always, if you're on Facebook Live, feel free to tap in with your thoughts. Again, follow me on Twitter at Brian Ain't Lying. Wow. So week 1 is in the books. And what a shocking week 1. So let's say this. I noticed what week 1 is missing. Week 1 was missing preseason. Why? I'm not even going to sit there and tell you how many people got hurt. I'm pretty sure the injury list is extremely high, whether it's ACLs, whether it's ankle sprains, high ankle sprains. There were a ton of injuries game 1. So I think that maybe looking at week 1, maybe the NFL should have pushed the season back just a little bit. I think the NFL should have probably pushed it back maybe 2 weeks to give these guys some type of preseason to get loose. Because every team, I don't care what team it is, if it's from the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs, they look rusty. If it's from the worst team in the NFL on paper right now, looking like the Jets, to me, they look rusty. So everybody sort of kind of look rusty to me. But I can tell you what, Baltimore came out swinging, and I'm not going to sit here and blab you. Baltimore came out swinging. Lamar Jackson looks like a guy on a mission. He knew last year that whether or not he underestimated Tennessee, he underestimated them, and he knows he's going to be on a mission this year. My shocker, like I told everybody, the Arizona Cardinals, which I'm not going to troll San Francisco 49ers fans. I'm not even going to do that right here because guess what? That's one game to go. That's one game down. What is it, 16 more or is it 17 this year? I can't remember the exact number. But there's still a hell of a season to go. But I told everybody that Arizona and Kyler Murray with DeAndre Hopkins was definitely going to be a problem for people. And we're seeing, to me, I think Arizona is going to be a problem this year. Mitchell Trubisky, I guess, shout out to him for having 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. But Detroit was supposed to win the game, and they didn't. And we'll talk a little bit more about Detroit in a few minutes. Again, we're looking at teams and they were rusty. We got a chance to enjoy, and I hope everybody enjoyed it, was the debut of Cam Newton in New England. Whoever would have thought in 2020, well, I guess we didn't know a lot of things were going to happen in 2020, but Cam Newton is the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots. And let me tell you something. Another guy, to me, he's on a mission. Cam went out there to control that game at his pace. He looked comfortable. Belichick looked comfortable. Josh McDaniels giving him the plays definitely looked comfortable. I mean, again, New England to me, like I said on the previous show, that New England was the favorite to me to win the AFC East. They're going to win their division. There's no way around that. Everybody still sees nightmares about New England. And I guess in the shocker, which, golly, I don't want to discuss it, but I guess you got to discuss it when you have a podcast. Okay. The Philadelphia Eagles and the NFC East clash blew a 17-point lead. I'm not going to say a 17-point lead is a big lead. 17 points is something that you should be able to maintain. Maybe not give up 27 unanswered. That's what bothered me about the Eagles. And I know they got hit by the injury bug real bad at this point. They came into the season limping. But when you give up 27 unanswered points, to me, that is a problem. That is a huge problem. Carson Wentz still holds on to the ball too long. And I'm going to tell you this with that young stud, this is me coming from a Cowboys fan. With that young stud, Chase Young, Carson Wentz does not want to hold the ball for that long. So again, it's week one. People are, whatever, getting the cobwebs out. I mean, you can see a lot of teams just look rusty. I mean, wide receivers were coming up hurt on routes. Linemen were getting hurt. I mean, everybody was just getting hurt. I felt like it was not the safest week in the NFL. And now, again, looking back at it, I would have loved for the NFL to do some type of preseason. Talking about preseason, one team that's in mid-season form already, and of course they wanted to come out and make a statement, would be the New Orleans Saints. So again, it's a long season to go. Now I want to remind everybody that, so I'm not going to flip flop every week, but I told everybody the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, their ceiling is winning 10 games. Tom Brady is 43 years old. Listen, I don't care who you are, especially at the quarterback position. Father Time eventually catches up with you. Not to say that I expected Tom Brady to come out there and throw for 400 yards or anything of that manner, but it wasn't happening. It For Tom Brady to go on a new team right now with no preseason, no nothing, it wasn't happening. If you look at Tom Brady over the last 4 years, maybe, like, you can't say the last time Tom Brady to me led a team, like, as when I say, like, when you look at a team and say, "Wow, man, if they didn't have Tom, they would have lost," was what, maybe that last Super Bowl. Or because he wasn't good in the playoffs last year. He wasn't. They lost to Tennessee. He wasn't good. He didn't. To me, he did not have a Tom Brady season. Is it going to take him a while to get adapted to that offense? Yeah, but I am not going to take away that offense is Tom Brady's offense. He brought those plays in. There's no way that he's learning a new offense at 43 years of age. No, it's his offense. Don't even sugarcoat that. We're not even going to try to hide that fact. The New Orleans Saints came out there and said, "Look, Tom, especially Drew Brees. Those guys did it for Drew Brees. It's almost like the guy coming to your school, okay? And you've been the guy in this school, and then this new guy comes to your school and says, 'Oh yeah, I'm here now.'" Drew Brees wanted it. I think the New Orleans Saints wanted it, and they got it. Intercepting Brady twice. I know they were able to extend Alvin Kamara on his contract. That kind of helped, smooth some things out. He wasn't big in the backfield, but Alvin Kamara is always big in the game just because he could come out the backfield and catch the ball. You can toss him the ball to the outside. And again, mind you, I'm the guy that's saying that it's week one. Do not, if you are a fan of a team who lost on Sunday, do not panic. It's okay. Those things will happen right now. The first 3 weeks of the regular season will be semi preseason, I want to say. That's just me. They're going to be semi preseason games. Nobody is going to be, coming out the box just swinging. I mean, Aaron Rodgers played well, but it took them a long time to get going. It took them a long time to get going. So I say this to say that we talked a little bit about the NFL in week one, and I want to talk about some coaches, to me, that are going in the hot seat already. And I'm saying they started off in the hot seat in 2020 going in. My first coach that I think that will be fired, and it's going to happen, is Matt Patricia. The Detroit Lions, they fired Coach Caldwell, which, again, I don't know why they fired Coach Caldwell, but he's again, Matt Patricia hasn't been good. 9-23-1, I want to say. 9-23-1 in his third season with the Detroit Lions. Again, some guys are only meant to be defensive coordinators or offensive coordinators or whatever coordinator that you're coaching. Matt Patricia is that guy. I still can't believe that they fired Jim Caldwell. after a decent season. I thought Detroit was going in the right direction. Unfortunately, the Detroit Lions franchise did not agree that the Lions were going in the right direction. Number two, Adam Gase. This one could be kind of unfair because he gets a lot of slander on social media. People start saying that, Gase isn't a good coach. Well, you got to remember, he wasn't given a lot. So he took a Dolphins team, and I think he led them to the playoffs one season, and they eventually ended up parting ways with Adam Gase because of his coaching style. Well, then he took on a messier job. He took on the New York Jets job. Please raise your hand if you know when the last time the Jets went to the playoffs and were relevant. Rex Ryan years. Rex Ryan years with Mark Sanchez at the quarterback position. And let me tell you something. I don't know how Rex got that out of Mark Sanchez to get them that far. So I think at the end of the night that Adam Gase is going to get a raw deal. He's not going to get the fair treatment of giving an opportunity to build a team. And if I'm a defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, I'm staying away from that Jets job. You want nothing to do with the New York Jets. They aren't good on paper. Their quarterback isn't good. Their running back isn't healthy. They barely have wide receivers. Their best defensive player last year in Jamal Adams is no longer with that team. So that shows a lot about the Jets. I always call them an MESS instead of JETS. Um, Number three could be Doug Marrone. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they did win week one, and then they shocked the Indianapolis Colts. But I'm going to say at the end of the night that Doug Marrone could be his last year because, again, they went from AFC Championship to trading away Calais Campbell, Jalen Ramsey, um, Leonard Fournette got cut. I mean, it was a mess for Jacksonville, and I think Doug Marrone's going to be made the scapegoat of a bad situation. Number four could be Dan Quinn of the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta lost week one to Seattle. The thing is, Dan Quinn was supposed to be bringing this type of defense. Remember this. When Dan Quinn got hired, the first thing everybody said was they wanted him to bring that Legion of Boom defense. And they never brought it. It never happened. I think those guys have never got the opportunity to to gel together. And it never worked. That Super Bowl is still living in most of their nightmares. Listen, a good coach says, listen, move on. We didn't win the Super Bowl. We blew a lead. Get off of Twitter. Get off of Instagram. Get off all social media and don't pay attention to that stuff. Just let it go. They never have. They never will. Um, Man, the last coach on my coaching hot seat, it could be Matt Nagy. And it's very early because he's going into his third season as Chicago Bears head coach. But he's a guy that, to me, has held on to Mitchell Trubisky a little too long. And again, shout out to Mitch Trubisky for having those 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter on a comeback win against the Detroit Lions. But I say come the end of the season, Matt Nagy probably won't be retained as head coach because Nick Foles is waiting. Okay, and then let me tell you this: I don't think Nick Foles is the answer for Chicago. But if Mitch Trubisky has a couple of bad games, then Matt Nagy's got to look to save his job, and then he's going to toss Nick Foles into the game. So, I mean, again, those are my top 5 coaches to probably be fired. That's Matt Nagy, Dan Quinn, Doug Marrone, Adam Gase, and Matt Patricia. Which I said at the beginning of this segment, I think that Matt Patricia will be the first coach to be fired. And then I guess everybody wants to talk about the Sunday night game, which was a lot of controversy at the end of the game, where the Rams ended up beating my Dallas Cowboys. Which, again, I'm frustrated, but it happens. There was a pass interference play that was called, and I'm going to say this: it wasn't pass interference. I think at first Ramsey hooked Gallup. Gallup found a way to get up off of him. Did it happen with an extend of an arm? Maybe. but that is a 50-50 play. That is made throughout an entire game. You are not going to tell me that Hall of Fame wide receivers, Michael Irvin, Jerry Rice, Chris Carter, Randy Moss, those guys used almost that same type of push off. And to me, you can't call that, in my opinion, you cannot call that at the end of a game. No, 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 no. That should not even think about being called. But shout out to the guys in stripes. They haven't called a lot of penalties in week one. And I guess they're a little. I think they're a little rusty as well. I know everybody caught the Monday night games last night. Do I really want to talk about them? No, because I did not stay up to watch Tennessee and Denver. If you stayed up to watch Tennessee and Denver, you already had PTO scheduled for the next day because I just couldn't make it. I caught the game this morning. I seen a couple of the highlights. It was good to see Big Ben back. Odd seeing Jason Garrett on the sideline for the Giants. And please, for the love of God, please stop calling Daniel Jones Danny Dimes. He is not Danny Dimes. Like, Danny Dimes goes to a guy who's like elevating himself at the quarterback position. Daniel Jones, to me, still makes a ton of mistakes. I watched him, and when I watched that game, instead of him throwing the ball out of bounds, he threw the ball in the back of the end zone. Guess what happened? It got intercepted. That's my thing. You want to elevate your career. You want to be better. How you be better? You make smarter plays. You throw the ball in the dirt. You take the sack sometimes. The Giants organization wants him to be Eli Manning. And let me tell you this. I could have a whole podcast about Eli Manning. Eli Manning, in my opinion, was never truly that great, but let me not make Giants fans upset because they'll go crazy and say, you don't know football. You've never played the game. I don't want to hear that crap. Again, man, week one was kind of crazy. I would have loved to see them at least get 2 preseason games in. I think a lot of teams right now, don't be fearful if your team goes 0-2. I can tell you that. Don't be fearful if your team goes 0-2. Again, it's a couple of games. You need it. You need a little bit of practice. You need a little bit of preseason, a little bit of getting together. So, again, don't get nervous or don't get discouraged. All right, what we'll do is we'll take a quick break. We'll come on the other side of the break, give you guys a chance to go get something to drink, something to snack on. Again, I appreciate everybody listening to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to. Definitely appreciate everybody that's listening over on Facebook Live. I appreciate you guys as always. So we'll come back. We'll preview the Eastern Conference Finals with the Heat and the Celtics. And we'll also talk about the possible demise of the L.A. Clippers. You're listening to the Unscripted podcast. Hang tight, folks. We'll catch you on the other side.
This is President Barack Obama. In the story of America, the greatest chapters are moments of challenge, when we see people serving their country and one another. Volunteers who step forward into hospital corridors and church basements, along levees and fire lines. And the next chapter is yours to help write. Sign up to volunteer at usaservice.org. That's usaservice.org. Let's renew America together.
A message from Renew America Together, brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hey, this is Freddie Coleman of ESPN Radio's Freddie and Fitzsimmons. You can catch me from 9 p. to 1 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, and Sirius XM Channel 80. But when I'm not on the radio, one of my favorite podcasts to listen to is my man Brian Langford and the Unscripted Podcast. You will not be sorry. Give it a listen. Give it a thought. He's going to make sure you're going to think plenty about what's going on in your life. So check it out, Brian Langford on the Unscripted Podcast.
All right, again, Unscripted Podcast is back. I appreciate everybody listening to the podcast on whatever platform that you're listening to. And shout out to my people listening to it via Facebook Live. My shameless plug as always, you can follow me on Twitter at Brian A. Lion. You can get all the previous episodes, again, on any of your local platforms. So guess what? If you get bored, listen to the Unscripted Podcast. You at work? Listen to the Unscripted Podcast. Like, you shouldn't have no excuse to why you aren't listening to this podcast. I know most people are on the road, driving home. Hook up to the aux, man. Hook up to the aux. Hey, if you're bumping all these rappers and you're bumping all this stuff, you could definitely bump the Unscripted Podcast. Don't be afraid. Let the people in the car listen to it. Hey, if you drive an Uber, let them listen to it. No, man. On a serious note, man, I can't lie. I appreciate it, man. Whether it's 25, 100, 500, 1,000, it doesn't make a difference to me. I appreciate everybody that takes time out of their busy day. All right, so I said when we came back, we are going to talk about the Eastern Conference Finals, which comes on tonight. The Celtics and the Heat at 6:30. But before we talk that, I want to talk about Game 7 that comes on after the Celtics and the Heat Game 1. So, oh man, the Clippers. I came on this podcast every week, and I completely put down the Denver Nuggets. I said they are what? The regular season Nuggets. I'm not afraid to say I said it. You listen to the podcast, you're gonna hear I say they're the regular season Nuggets. And what does the Clippers do? The Clippers do this to me, basically.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived.
And if you didn't hear that on there, that was Stephen A. talking about we've been hoodwinked. Yes, I have. I've been set up. I said when the Clippers were up 3-1, I said, oh, this is over. This is over. This is why I call them the regular season Nuggets. It's over. And what do the Clippers do? Give up 2 games in a row. They're at a Game 7. Listen, this could go down as the ultimate Game 7 loss probably ever. And maybe not ever, because Cleveland came back from game 3-1 in the NBA Finals. But I mean, look at the talent on the Clippers team. They were brought together for this. It's been all season long. It was LA versus LA in the West Finals. That's what we want. We want to see our Lakers. We want to see the Clippers. We want to see a LA Western Conference Finals. And you're literally almost an hour away from not getting it. So when that Game 7 plays tonight, Kawhi Leonard's got to be big. He is usually in Game 7s. That's what he does. He put away the Philadelphia 76ers last year in Game 7 to go to the NBA Finals. But he's going to need help. He's going to need help from Lemon Pepper Lou Williams. I mean, Lou has been missing, and I get it. Lou's missing chicken wings right now. He's missing nightlife. And that plays a part. And I'm joking when I say that, but it plays a part on a lot of these players who are used to, after the game, maybe going out, getting a little bit of that nightlife, and they aren't getting any of it. Montrezl Harrell's got to play big tonight in the paint. Paul George, he's going to need him. Marcus Morris, the tough act, cancel that. They're going to need you to play tonight, because guess what? There's a lot of people saying you may have to fire Doc Rivers if they lose Game 7. I'm not going to go that direction. You do not fire Doc Rivers for Game 7. But you start reevaluating the team. You start saying, wow, we came together for a second-round loss to get to the same spot we're getting to every year. This is what we came together for. And to me, I'm not going to say this is going to happen, but I think some type of report will come out. Because remember this, Kawhi Leonard initially wanted to play with Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving or even a Jimmy Butler. Never once did he mention Paul George. And to me, when option A, B, and C fell through because all those guys, KD and Kyrie wanted to team up in Brooklyn, Jimmy Butler made it clear he was going to the Heat, it made Kawhi Leonard say, man, who else can we get to team up with me? Because I don't want to play with the Lakers, which I respect Kawhi Leonard for. And they was like, well, let's see if Oklahoma will trade Paul George. And they did. But I don't think that was his option. He's made it work, but that definitely wasn't option A for Kawhi Leonard. The Denver Nuggets, to me, at this point, probably have nothing to lose. I call them the regular season Nuggets, but coming back from 3-1, I think if you lost Game 7 tonight, okay, whatever, you lost Game 7. The Clippers lose Game 7, it's, they lost Game 7. And what do they do next? Because when you put teams together, especially teams like this Clippers team, you're looking to win immediately. And I hate to say it, that's just the NBA. That's in any sport. When you put a team together, you look to win. You look to win instantly. Shout out to my man Warren Taylor listening to the show. Appreciate you. I talked about your Lions earlier, man. Um, man, you guys missed out on a big play on that touchdown that he dropped in the end zone. Hopefully, you guys get a new coach soon. I always want to shout out people who listen to the podcast. I definitely want to make sure I always give everybody some love. But the Denver Nuggets. So if the Denver Nuggets advance, then they go play the Lakers. Oh my God! To me, I feel like LeBron is getting a cakewalk to the finals. Like it's just like, oh yeah, LeBron, here, just keep going, just keep going. But now I'm starting to think, are the Clippers even that much better? Is it are the Clippers even that much better for LeBron to play in the West Finals? And the only reason why is because that the Clippers roster is much to me deeper than the Nuggets roster. Uh, the Clippers can turn it on and stay on. The Nuggets have to wait for it to come around. So I don't know, man. Game 7 is going to be interesting. I- I'm not going to say fire Doc Rivers if they lose, but you may have to start reevaluating some of the talent on the team. And while we're talking about reevaluating talent on the team, before we talk about the Heat and the Celtics to close out the podcast today, is that Giannis Antetokounmpo met with the Milwaukee Bucks front office, and they had a 3-hour, I guess, dinner, whatever they had, and they talked about the roster, and they talked about going into the luxury tax next season. Listen, if this was your plan, I'm not going to say it was their plan, but if Milwaukee was thinking this way from the beginning, then you would have kept Malcolm Brogdon. You would have just went into the luxury tax and kept Malcolm Brogdon. He was a big part of the team. As you can see with Indiana, he started to come around even more. I don't know what the Bucks can do to that roster. I don't know what Giannis wants them to go and do. I know what I want them to go and do, but nobody's going to take that Eric Bledsoe contract. No team wakes up in the morning and goes, "Hey, you know what, Milwaukee? We'll take on that Eric Bledsoe contract." Bledsoe just isn't that guy to me. He hasn't been the guy, and I think that as much as we have blamed Giannis, and we've started looking at even Chris Middleton by saying, "Okay, he's not part of a big three." Eric Bledsoe got paid a whole hell of a lot of money, and to me, he was very, very useless in the playoffs. And he's been useless the last 2 years. He hasn't came around. Eric Bledsoe, again, he got paid his money. To me, I don't ever think in my mind Eric Bledsoe was a great point guard. I think he was a okay point guard, but great. I will completely disagree with anybody. If anybody gets up and wants to argue with me and say that Eric Bledsoe is a great point guard, feel free. I will definitely tap you in, get you on the podcast, and let you voice your mind about Eric Bledsoe because he just to me isn't good. Milwaukee again thinking about going into the luxury tax. If you're going into the luxury tax, to me, you should have done this a year ago and kept Malcolm Brogdon. And other shocking slash non-shocking news, the uh, the Houston Rockets and Mike D'Antoni decided to go separate ways. Mike D'Antoni wants to be a free agent. I didn't know coaches like could just start announcing they're going to be a free agent, but I guess he wanted to beat the owner to the punch by telling them that he's not coming back to the Houston Rockets. Again, another team who has underachieved. Bringing in Westbrook, they thought that they were going to be this finals bound team, and they weren't. The question is this: can you trade Westbrook? I mean, can you trade Westbrook at this point of his career? Westbrook is no longer explosive. Westbrook doesn't have the it factor. He can't shoot the three well. I said when they traded for him and they traded CP3 away, I said, well, you almost kind of downgrading because Westbrook doesn't shoot the ball well. He's not a good free throw shooter. He's not a great passer. All he is an explosive player. And I take it back to a la Derrick Rose. Once Derrick Rose tore his ACL a couple of times and lost that explosiveness, it was over. Westbrook's been banged up a lot. He isn't that explosive no more. He lost his advantage. Now, to me, James Harden is a guy that's going to have to come around at some point. I mean, he's getting paid a whole lot of money. Again, he's getting paid a whole lot of money. He's being asked to lead the team. He's supposed to have them somewhere in the West Finals or back to the or going to the NBA Finals. Remember, This team went to Game 7 with the Golden State Warriors, and now they got bounced out before the Western Conference Finals. Everybody's always going to say you downgraded. Houston has no room for money, for no room for roster additions. Think about it. They're $82 million in with Westbrook and Harden. So if you're $82 million in, how much deeper can you really go with this roster? And I think that's what Mike D'Antoni finally realized that, hey, my time is up. It's time for me to go. I think for D'Antoni now, it's two options. D'Antoni's going to go coach the 76ers, or he's going to be an analyst on TNT. The thing is this. D'Antoni is 65 years old. He's not going to a rebuild like Chicago. He's not going to entertain no type of job like that. Philly is the only job that looks semi-intriguing because of the talent that's there. But if Mike D'Antoni thinks that he's just going to walk in to Philly and turn them into the Houston Rockets of the East, because the 8-second basketball or whatever he wants to call it, it just doesn't get you to the finals. It does get you somewhere, just not to the NBA Finals. So again, Mike D'Antoni to me, he's either going to be an analyst or he's going to be the 76ers head coach. Me personally, I would rather see him be an analyst. I think it's time for younger coaches to get an opportunity. I say this on every podcast. I want to see definitely black coaches. You got Darvin Ham sitting out there, Wes Unseld Jr. I mean, for the love of God, I don't know why Sam Cassell isn't an NBA head coach. I mean, he studied under Doc Rivers so long, it was ridiculous. Sam Cassell is a basketball player. He is a basketball mind. You got Chauncey Billups sitting out there, now tossing his name out there into the hat. Ty Lue, Mike Woodson, Mark Jackson. I'm just naming all the black coaches. You know why? Because they get called lead assistants, and they're not lead assistants. They should get the same opportunity as Mike D'Antoni possibly is about to get yet again. Again, Philadelphia to me doesn't need a retread coach. Appreciate my guy Two Tone for listening to the podcast. Appreciate you, brother, as always. I like to shout out everybody that listens randomly or reaches out to me randomly as well too, and always commend me on the things that I'm trying to do with the podcast here. So y'all know the next about 28, 30 minutes, we're going to catch the Celtics and the Heat, game 1. Again, I always stick with my same prediction, Celtics in 7. Boston's going to have to play much better than they played in that Toronto series because game 7, they should have blew the Raptors off the door, okay? They should have blew the Raptors out. Matter of fact, this shouldn't even have went to 7 games. That's what's so confusing with Boston. And I think with the Heat, they can't do that. They can't start dropping games. They can't and again, the buzzer beater was something that nobody seen coming that got Toronto, on the board because they would have been down 3-0 if they didn't hit that buzzer beater. But then Boston also gave away some games. The overtime game, they didn't play well. But fast forward, they're here. They have an opportunity to get to the NBA Finals. And everybody knows me, I'm a diehard Celtics fan. The Miami Heat have been the shocking team this year. They knocked out the Milwaukee Bucks in 5 games. Why? Because of their grit and grind. We jump out there and we name Jimmy Butler every time. But we don't talk about Bam Adebayo. I mean, that guy can rebound. Like, he's a strong rebounder. We're not talking about Jay Crowder. I loved Jay Crowder when he was a Celtic and was mad that the Celtics got rid of him. Jay Crowder can play. Duncan Robinson is shooting the 3-ball extremely well this year. The Celtics are going to have to contain that. And they're going to need Kemba Walker in this Eastern Conference Finals to be big. I get it. In the semifinals against the Raptors, they played a boxing one defense. And Google boxing one or YouTube boxing one defense on Kemba Walker, you'll see how a lot of times he was double teamed. And in this series, they don't have anybody to double team Kemba Walker. So Kemba Walker has to be like licking at the chops right now and want to be like, I want to get my hands out. I want to get out there and I want to redeem myself because he feels like he owes it to the team. So, again, you get Celtics Heat, game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Again, I'm a guy that wants to see the Celtics win in 7. I'll take it less than 7, but I like to see 7 games. All right, so on the way out the door, Leandro Barbosa retired from the NBA. Oh, my God. This is what I mean by retreads. Jeff Van Gundy expected to be coaching candidate for the Houston Rockets. Why? Jeff Van Gundy doesn't, what tells somebody that Jeff Van Gundy He's been out the coaching, 14 years? The game has changed. Houston shouldn't even entertain that, but whatever. I didn't want to talk about it because this isn't the big thing. I know everybody caught the John Wall throwing up Crip signs thing. I mean, yeah, it's something that you can't do. You can't toss up the Crip signs. Like, he knows better than that. You cannot toss up the Crip signs. Knowing that, or the blood sign, I should say, knowing that you in the NBA and Adam Silver should be watching, and I hope that he definitely, cleans up his act, because that's just, it's not something good, man. And then to close this show out on a positive note, and shout out because I got another report that somebody sent me. I like everybody texting me during the podcast. The Rockets are also interested in Sam Cassell. That's my guy. Sam Cassell should get that job. All right, on the closeout today is Pau Gasol named his newly born daughter Elizabeth Gianna Gasol. Let me tell you something, man. That is deep. Okay, so to me, that's Kobe leaving more than just basketball. That's Kobe the man. That's Kobe the father. That's Kobe the leader. Like, you got to think about this. This man just named his kid after somebody else's kid who passed away. That is something strong. That is a brotherhood. I definitely want to see us continue to bond together. Definitely like that. All righty. We are at the 35-minute mark of the podcast. As always, I appreciate everybody taking time out their day. Again, you're home with your family. You're trying to warm up dinner. You're trying to get the kids together. You're doing virtual homework and virtual school. To take time out means a whole lot to me. I promise that the product, I always say this, the product gets better and better every week, every day. I got some things going on behind the scenes. Getting the studio definitely jazzed up again, so we'll have the video stream going. So we'll have some things going in a couple of months. I don't want to spoil them. It's not fair if I spoil them too fast. Then everybody will be expecting these improvements overnight. With that being said, as always, I appreciate everybody taking time on your busy nights. Again, listening to the Unscripted podcast. And remember, you can listen to the Unscripted podcast anytime, any day, anywhere, any place on your local platform streams. Peace.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Unscripted podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. We'll see you next time.